Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and Gothamites. It is I, Emily Sophia, here to walk you guys through the latest episode of the show. So I believe we're on episode 12 now of season 1, and we had a little off week, so we get to kick it in the city once more. And I have to start this review off by saying, of course, spoiler alert, as I will be bearing all in this review. And furthermore, I certainly preferred this week's episode to last week's on a number of levels. I mean, at least this time around, we got to really focus in on the plots that matter in the grand scheme of things. I will do my best to break down everything that occurred in this episode. There was a lot that happened, a lot of things I want to discuss, a lot of really interesting moments, so I'm going to try and encapsulate everything as best I can, but if I do forget anything major, I will expect you guys down there in the comments to do your duty, fill in the blanks, and I will join you below. So anyways, life in Gotham. Let's have a chat about that. So, I guess I will first begin with some of my criticisms of the episode, although, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, this was quite a fine installment. We see a lot of things are in motion now. I first have to say that I'm a little bit disappointed that the writers didn't really commit to the environment of Arkham Asylum. I certainly thought that we were going to get a slightly longer tenure for Jimmy James Gordon at the asylum, but he had his shield back by the end of the episode and told off the commissioner in a quintessential Gordon fashion. All he does is win, 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 no matter what. He takes the electrocutioner out, he gets his pretty little shield back, and he tells him what for. And I have to say, that was a pretty great scene, though. I really do enjoy the acting of Ben McKenzie and just the tenacity that he brings to this character, because I know that some people have complained that Gordon seems one-dimensional in that he's just constantly... It's hard to describe. I mean, I can picture it in my mind, and I get what he's about. I mean, I think that he's just so intense, and he is so driven. And yet, I really like the way that it's portrayed. I really like the way that it's done. Ben McKenzie really rolls with it, and I just kind of have to laugh after a while, because he is just so ridiculously intense, but he is consistently intense. So it's not in just these strange, bizarre little bursts. It's just constantly what you are getting from this guy, and I can appreciate that. I can get behind it. Anyways, so, I mean, it's all fine and well to have him back in the GCPD. I mean, they have a fantastic set there to utilize, and let's be honest, they weren't going to keep him away forever. Policing and police work is his passion. He is all about that justice. He is all about carrying out the law. I think I love that scene with him, Harvey Bullock, and the commissioner when he was just shy of saying, like, I am the law. I could feel it. I could feel it boiling in his veins. But, yeah, again, I really dig the tenacity behind James Gordon. Yeah, I mean, let me know what you guys are thinking of his character so far. Yeah, so it kind of seems like the writers didn't fully commit to him being at Arkham Asylum, and I'm curious to see how things are going to unfold there, but at this point, James has established for himself a bit of a presence there, and I guess kind of a reputation, and apparently he gets blamed for everything going wrong there, so I think there's going to be ongoing implications, and Arkham is going to actively come into the picture more later on, but we'll see just how that unfolds. Of course, we had to endure the briefest glimpse of Barbara. It was enough for me to stomach without vomiting up my soul and throwing myself into the nether regions. But I missed half of the scene that she had because there was like a really short commercial break and I didn't even realize that the show was on. So anyways, I think, was that her parents that she was going back to visit and stay with for a few days. I just don't really understand this woman's game plan, mainly because there is none, you know. But hey, she's got this apartment that she's doing absolutely diddly squat with, and nobody's doing anything with. It's like an evacuation zone. Just nobody's there except for the street hoodlums that are using it as it's kind of a hostel. Like, I just don't understand. Anyways, so she was there for however brief a time. There was, oh, and so the electrocutioner, you know, at first I was kind of annoyed with the whole idea. Number one, like, the character that we've seen so far didn't really seem to warrant the theme song of Johnny Cash's God's Gonna Cut You Down, which the last time I heard that in something television related was in like a promo for Dexter, I think, actually, and I really enjoyed that. But anyways, so I don't know if by playing that song, the writers or, you know, the people in charge of the sound were wanting us to think that Jack Gruber is the god who is cutting down, or the one to be cut down by God. But, yeah, I mean, again, like, the character just didn't seem quite epic enough to warrant that kind of entry. Although I did enjoy the way that he was played with at the very end. I was joking with my brother earlier that really the only way that the electrocutioner warrants our attention is by actually electrocuting something, because otherwise I completely forgot about him. I forgot about him right before he messed up Maroney and Company's lunch, and I forgot about him when he strolled up to the GCPD. I was completely caught off guard because I was so immersed in, of course, attempting to figure out what exactly the Penguin was scheming and dreaming. But I mean, the face-off with Gordon was actually quite comical. You know, he has this big, explosive entrance, and everybody gets knocked out, and the only rubberized one among them, that being Gordon, got to face off against the guy and, you know, have the bad guy tell him deep and, you know, existential truths about who he is, and then he, you know, Gordon disables him pretty quick. Makes pretty quick work of this guy, but I like the way that he just kind of takes it like, okay, you know, that is 110% fair, because really the electrocutioner is just, he's all about the flair and the pizzazz, you know, like when he strolls into the great darkened room, he's, you know, complaining that he didn't get more oomph, and that's ironically just all there is to him, is this surface level of oomph, and then what do you really get? And I think that he kind of sees that about himself, and there's kind of a humorous moment that's shared. And so I like kind of the subtlety of the character in that respect. They didn't have him throw a hissy fit or, you know, rip him a new one. It was just kind of like, okay, all right, and checkmate. You know, to be continued. I don't know. I guess I wouldn't mind him resurfacing later, but you know, so he played an interesting role in the episode, but again, I completely forgot about him until he freaking electrocuted something. So when you have a character who is completely forgettable beyond, like, wreaking some havoc on the scene that is actually the most interesting, like, then you're probably not doing it right. But then again, I'm really not a big fan of kind of the villain of the week, although this guy did have a 2-episode arc, so a little something more. I don't know. Anyways, so there was that. Lots of good moments in this episode, though. Harvey Bullock has quickly become one of my favorite characters in the show because literally every word that comes from his mouth is pure gold. Just so many ridiculous quotables from that man, and I so very much enjoy his friendship and camaraderie with Gordon. The two bounce off of each other quite nicely because they're both these different kinds of intensity. I love the part when Bullock goes ham on Gordon, like, you think you've been playing it safe, and he has to keep repeating and repeating that. Because Gordon can't quite seem to get it through his skull when to stop. You know, he is the one who was saying that, you know, fear tells you where the edge is, and this guy is just a sphere of insanity because he is edgeless, evidently, but that's something that you either love about him or hate about him, and I choose to love it, and you can do with that what you will. Anyways, I love Bullock. It's good to see him back in the zone. Good to see Mr. Enigma as well. He had a couple of fun scenes with the whole cupcake riddle and the danger of a beautiful woman with Miss Kringle, and you know, just his little moments, and then kind of derailing Bullock's attempt at a metaphor about Gordon, you know, how he's like a roller coaster that only goes down, and Enigma has to add, like, wouldn't that make it more of an elevator? You know, just good little moments, things to bring some levity to the darkness and gloom. Although, really, this episode felt very comedic to me, and maybe that's just kind of the way that I am taking in and viewing this show now. Because I initially thought that it was going to be much more of a noir kind of story, but the campiness factor has far outweighed that as far as the writing goes. Of course, we still have the very vivid Burton-esque and noirish imagery of Gotham, and I do love that visual element, but let's face it, there's a lot of silliness afoot, and that's something that I'm trying to find is more endearing, because really it's something that you're either going to get on board with or it's going to lose you, and I can completely understand either way. The show is by no means without its shadows. So anyway, so there were fun moments with him. Good to have the Penguin back in the game. And I mean, I thought that I had a really rough day today, but twice did he get electrocuted on his way to go serve his master. I also I enjoyed towards the end with the great reveal with Falcone and Fish and Liza. And he's saying that a little birdie told him that there was something foul afoot in Denmark. And yeah, so I enjoy the Falcone and Penguin duo and kind of the bird theme that we have going on here. A little, just a little sliver of Hitchcockiness. Anyway, I'm gonna move on. But, yeah, so interesting to kind of see how Penguin is straddling these two worlds, two major crimes syndicates, and he is still working the system, and ultimately seems to have some kind of scheme for Fish, and we see that by the end of things she's still alive, but certainly going to experience a drawn-out demise, I think. And I think that ultimately she's going to take a lot of people down with her since she is not already dead. Because either she was going to kick it this episode or really go down swinging later on. And the fact that she is still alive, granted shackled and due for a little Falcone torture, yeah. I definitely think that we're going to get a visceral or explosive ending with her, especially since all this time, you know, way back in the day, we think when she first really started stewing about the whole Falcone issue, and I will never forget that moment where, you know, she's talking about how she will sink her teeth into that old man, and yet here she is offering him a one-way ticket to the countryside with his mother lover, you know? That doesn't strike me as Mooney's kind of endgame, and so I think that that was going to be a diversion all along. The fact that she's still alive means that she's probably going to get another crack at it, and somebody's going to either screw up somewhere along the line and giving her just enough room to get back in the game, knows? Maybe Penguin will let her out to play so he can have his way with her. You just never know. But I certainly do expect a battle of epic proportions to come from this. But I'm glad that we finally advanced the plot in that direction. Finally, there is momentum for Don Falcone strangling Liza. Seemed to breathe some life back in the old man, who is no longer as decrepit as he seemed to strike us earlier on. And, you know, he's retired by the fire, twirling his little flower, ready to go, you know, collect his last paycheck and bid the fair world of Gotham adieu. And to think that Zaz is the one who's trying to talk him out of that, like, of all the characters to be giving the respect speech, we're dealing with Victor Zaz. That is a choice. That is an interesting choice. I'm still so bothered by the fact that Zaz has been, for lack of a better word, kind of neutered down into this assassin character. And granted, he's got his idiosyncrasies that make him kind of interesting and bizarre to watch, but when is he really going to break forth in vivid colors? And are we going to deal at all with the way that his character was in the comics? What exactly is this guy all about? I still find it weird to see him wielding a gun, because that's just not the way of it for this guy. No, not the way that I know him. And yet he's still and already making his marks. So I just wonder what's gonna push him to the next level, or will he be pushed to the next level? I'm not sure. Anyways, I just found it very humorous that he's the one who's trying to give Falcone a reason to cling on to his power, to let the regime go on, and ultimately it does, but we'll see how that actually transpires in the end. Yes, I'm still excited to see what the Penguins' endgame is, of course. That is sure to be delightfully frightening. Robin Lord Taylor continues to own ass in this show. Thank you very much. And I read a little story about Danny DeVito actually complimenting him on his acting skills, and I would definitely say that Taylor is a very worthy protege, and it's great to see him again. His performance is always worth tuning in for. What am I missing? Oh, Leslie Thompson entered the men's room and had a delightful little moment with her apparently new man. And I found that to be a bit sudden, but because she's not Barbara, I am all for it. I am 110% behind that. I think there was something else I was 110% about in this episode, but I don't know. For some reason, that percentage that does not actually exist is something that I'm about this time around. Anyway, so, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. Again, it felt really rushed, but there was just a lot that was happening in this episode, and so I really enjoyed the movement. I enjoyed the progression with these plots that we have had going for a long time. I do anticipate a lot more volatility to come. I anticipate more Arkham. We didn't see Batman this episode, but that's okay. We need to let little Master Bruce lay low, get his education on, or what have you. We'll see what Selina and Ivy are up to. We have no need to see what Barbara is up to, because basically she is couch surfing, and I really don't care to be a part of that any longer. At all. That I'll pass. Thank you. Yeah, so let me know, by all means, anything that I forgot to address about this episode. Also, I have to say that I'm so amused by the portrayal of Morrissey. He's just such a classic comic book bad guy. I mean, the whole story about the teeth pulling over their lunch, like, who is this guy? Double espresso, extra sugar, really? I just don't understand. I don't understand what this guy is all about. And I just wonder when he's going to reach his moment with Penguin because he has been more than forbearing with this guy who's going to see his mother, going to see Falcone. No, really going to see his mother. He's going to see Mama Falcone is, in fact, the plan there. But at what point is Morrissey finally going to drop the guise of accepting Penguin for all his everythings? Because for as clever as the Penguin is, either he's intentionally just barely letting on that he's not all there just to mess with people, or he's revealed too much. But then again, getting electrocuted is going to elicit some interesting information from one. I am quite sure of that. So yeah, very fun and interesting episode. It's good to be back in the groove here in Gotham, and I can't wait to do more. So thank you guys so much for watching this review. All my love is for yours. I shall lay carnation upon your body, which I did not strangle because I love you. So if that did happen, it's not my fault. Okay? Okay. Also, I had a cool epiphany earlier about the whole Falcone Liza thing. So when she picked that flower and tucked it into his suit, when you think about it, the flower was already dying all that time, you know, after he kills Liza, and he removes that flower, kisses it, and lays it upon her. She pretty much signed her own death sentence in plucking that flower that kind of represented herself, a youth picked from her prime, and metaphors. Anyway, I'm gonna leave with that. So you guys take care, fill in any blanks, anything that I happen to miss, and as always, I will be back before you know it.